The big discussion that we have all the time about what to do about some of the Republicans that we serve with that vote with the Democrats on a regular basis. And in my view, there's no benefit to keeping them around. I mean, you might say, oh, we need to have as many Republicans as we can, so that we can stop whatever we can. But when they outnumber us 2-1, having 1 or 2 votes the other way doesn't make any difference. I'd much rather have people that are willing to stand up and, for their principles and fight for them.
I mean, for the most part, we do, but there are few stragglers.
They're not Republicans.
A few stragglers here.
They're Rhinos.
Right.
They're not Republicans.
But they are registered as Republicans, they were elected as Republicans, and then they caucus with us. We have our behind the scenes meetings about how we're gonna tackle certain legislation, what bills we're gonna, fight, what amendments we're gonna run, and those people are part of those conversations.
Yeah,
They want the inside scoop.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't trust whether or not that information is actually getting, to the other side.
Yeah.
It's like the president, the Democrats are all upset because the president was able to keep the secret about the Iran bombing, but that's because he didn't tell any Democrats, so it didn't get leaked out.
Right.
So,
Keep these questions coming,
Any other questions? Gotta be something on your mind.
What are important issues?
There was a bill that came up against homeschoolers, and they weren't even allowed to go to, or they weren't gonna allow any residents,
Yes,
state residents, to come out and speak
yes.
about that. And it still got defeated, but it's another
Yes, yes,
another opportunity for them to take away parental rights.
yes, of
Yes.
course.
So,
Yes.
so there wasn't a bill put forward on that. What they did is they had an educational forum at like a public, not even, I wouldn't even call it public hearing.
Informational.
An informational hearing on
That's the
it.
term. It's not
And I
official,
believe
not even an official
It's not even an
hearing.
official, right.
Almost like test the waters.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, then they put a committee together, or they
Yes.
put a group of people together. That issue, I fear, will come up next
Yes,
session.
absolutely.
It will absolutely come up that they want to take away the rights. They want to put the hammer down on homeschoolers.
There are certain constituencies that are a thorn in the side to the majority Democrats. Gun owners, homeschoolers.
Yes.
vaccine deniers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
COVID.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
So I mean,
Yeah.
all of those groups, their attitude is we want to chase you out of the state. I mean, frankly, that's why they do the policy that they do. They want to encourage people, there'll be more room for their illegal alien friends, if that's the case, maybe.
Right. If you're not gonna vote for us, you have no business.
That's right, but that's what they want to do. They purposely propose and they float extremely hostile legislation because they're trying to encourage people to bail on Connecticut. But we gotta stay and fight, we have to.
And listen, we have a totally different philosophy than the Democrats do. And it's unfortunate we do these town halls and we never have anything really, really good to report that's going to move the needle and make your lives a lot easier. We never do because we have a total different worldview than the Democrats do.
Right, and they're moving bad legislation. I mean, look,
They are.
we always throw these caveats in, 70% of the legislation that we pass out of the legislature is
Right.
unanimous. We
But
vote and agree on a great many things, but they're not the big issues. They're
Right,
not
they're
the
not.
issues about the size of government or tackling election fraud.
They're not gonna change your life.
Or fighting our
They're not.
sky-high electric rates,
Right.
or, shrinking government. I mean,
Right.
those are where we are gonna fight over things, and there's a real divide.
What about water? I hear something's going on with water, that they're
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
get a centralized, like they're gonna sell water to somebody so that then they can increase our water charges?
There is something going on, yes. We've had some legislation that basically is designed to force Eversource to sell off Connecticut water, which they own.
Yeah.
And by virtue of that, it can be purchased by someone else, and allegedly that's gonna result in an increase in rates, but I don't know if that's
That was in a
100%.
special session, I think, last year.
That was in the
That was in
special
special
session
session.
bill.
So
That was a
they'll control our electricity, they will control our water costs. Yeah, the whole electricity thing is.
that
like,
water,
that's-
that thing with the divestiture of the water was in the car tax bill that we
Yes,
brought in,
last
where they
year.
raised our car taxes. The same people that keep alleging that they're going to get rid of the car tax raised our car tax.
It's going to
Don't
come
ever
to,
forget it.
yeah, it's going to come to a point how much people can take, right? The state of Connecticut increases their spending, well, that money has to come from somewhere. your towns increase spending because they have insurance costs and payroll. Someone has to pay for that money. So it's at some point, your car taxes go up, your mill rate goes up, your taxes that you pay the state go up, the government, it's going to bust at some point, and I hope when people are just going to wake up and say they've had enough, because I don't know how much you can take. I mean, how much more are people going to have to pay before they say, okay, this is it, enough is enough?
Well, I think people are at that point, Gale.
I hope so.
Well, they're driving out people that can't afford to live here, and then they're saying, why is everything so expensive?
Right,
It's like, well,
yeah,
that's why everything is so expensive, because if you were on a modest income, you can't even afford to live in Connecticut.
and
So
it's,
people are
and-
competing over those resources.
and for a lot of people on fixed income, seniors, you know, $50 a month is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
We
to
didn't
a lot
finish
of
what we
people.
wanted to say about the budget, which was,
okay.
the budget ended up being 700 pages long, by the way.
Yes,
And of course, the house, you guys got it with how much notice?
6 hours.
The 6 hours notice, that's how
We
much.
got it at 4 in the
Here
morning.
you go, it's a
We
stack
started
of paper
debating
like
it.
this, you know?
4
Here
a.m.
you
we
go.
got it. We started debating it.
Still steaming from the copier, you know, and you gotta vote on it now.
Yeah, right.
That's what they give you.
So as
And it's
people are
because-
talking, you're reading it. You
That's
know?
because they don't care if we vote for it. They're like, we got the votes, you vote no if you want, you know, go ahead, representative. You know,
Whatever.
that's their attitude. But what the other thing about this budget document is that we did such a good job as members of the minority stopping the bad policy.
Yeah.
We really put the brakes on them. We filibustered, we offered amendments, we made it extremely difficult so they couldn't even get their bills across the finish line. So what they did is they just stuffed it all in the budget.
Put it in the budget.
They put it in the implementer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
like they
this
do
year-
every year.
This year, the budget and implementer work together to their credit.
Right.
Remember, I was describing the budget is really a spreadsheet of numbers. The implementer is the language that goes with it, that's supposed to set the policy for how the money is spent. And sometimes they, in a dastardly way, in my view, I always want to use that word, they do the budget separate. It's like, well, how could you vote for the budget with just
And not know what it is.
but not have the policy? I mean, what the heck are you voting on? Voting on a spreadsheet that means nothing? But they do that sometimes. But this year, to their credit, they did put the documents together. But not to their credit, they took what was the budget, which would have been about 50 pages, and they added another 600 some odd pages to it.
Right.
And they just stuffed everything under the sun in
That
that
they
bill,
couldn't pass.
including one of the most controversial labor bills that we had all session, which was a bill about prevailing wage. Which, if you don't know what prevailing wage is, basically that is a requirement for towns in particular to pay a certain very expensive wage for union labor for infrastructure projects. So if you're gonna build a school or a bridge, you gotta pay union labor, and sometimes you're paying 3 or 4 times what you might pay any other contractor to do the job. That's prevailing wage. And there are requirements for what jobs fall under prevailing wage, and Republicans have been fighting for years, me in particular as the ranking member of the Labor Committee, to try and change those requirements, to limit the requirements on a small town like Woolkit to have to pay prevailing wage, because we're all paying for that in our property taxes, right? What they did this year is they had this bill, which I stopped them throughout the whole committee process. Every day went by in the Senate, they're threatening to run this bill, and I'm like, you run this bill, I'm shutting this place down, it's not going anywhere, I will talk for 2 days, blah, 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 and they didn't. And they didn't. They didn't. You know, whether I was bluffing or not, it doesn't matter. They didn't do it, right? And they, so they took and they stuffed it in the budget. And what this language does is says that towns, including Woolkit, not only do they have to pay prevailing wage for the job, they also have to pay prevailing wage for anything that is part of the job that is done off-site. So if they're building a school and the HVAC system is built in a factory somewhere, they got to pay them the prevailing wage labor rate too, which is going to make the same job cost twice as much.
Right.
And also, it's going to cause businesses to leave the state of Connecticut.
Well, that's the end result.
That's the
Yeah.
end result.
I didn't know, I thought that didn't get out and they stuck it in the.
Yeah.
And they stuck that in the budget.
So pretty soon there will be no jobs at all in Connecticut. What you are going to have is a total welfare state. You will own nothing and you will be happy. It is the UN agenda of
You'll either be
2030.
filthy rich and paying the tax bill,